All right, before I let y'all get into the radio show, first things first. The reason why I've been gone from the 2 Cent Tuesday topics is because in my radio class, I talked to my professor about the little segment that I do on here as an actual radio show, and I made it into a pilot episode. Now, a few things for y'all to know. It's going to sound better than this because that was recorded in an actual radio studio. Number two, it was an hour and a half conversation. I cut it down to an hour, and then you're going to be hearing jumps because this is YouTube. I had to get rid of the copyrighted music. Back on the school's radio station, we're partnered with ASCAP BMI and all that to pay out royalties, and that doesn't transfer over here to YouTube, so I had to cut all the music and copyrighted music stuff out. Oh yeah, and the gameplay, there was no gameplay. I just got some gameplay that I found on my computer. And before I get criticized for the gameplay, that this gameplay of Fortnite is from the end of season 2 or the beginning of season 3 when we first found out about Fortnite. And I was playing with the homie Tyler. This is the first time that the squad has been online at the same time in about 3 months. So yeah, we had just found out about Fortnite. This is the first time the squad has been on the same time in like 3 months. So the gameplay is a mix of not knowing what we doing, catching up, and acting a fool. So don't take the gameplay serious. It's just something for y'all to look at if y'all don't want to open up another tab. So yeah, and as I said before, radio show's gonna sound better than this because this is being recorded back home in my bedroom with the AC on, and that was in an actual radio studio. So yeah, peace. Enjoy the show. Oh, and one last thing real quick. This news is old. This was recorded and broadcasted on April 24th. So yeah, the news and stuff that you're hearing is old, but when it was broadcasted over the air, it was new, fresh, and current news. So yeah, last interruption. Enjoy the show. Alright, man. It's Dylan Dilworth, your host for 2 Cents Tuesday. In this episode, I have a special guest, Chip, who will also be co-hosting today's episode. We're going to talk games, we're going to talk about films and television, and this is more of a discussion-based episode, so there won't be that much music. Lastly, before we get into the show, there are spoilers in this episode, so proceed with caution. Without further ado, here is the pilot episode of 2 Cent Tuesday. Enjoy. Hello, everyone. Welcome to 2 Cent Tuesday. I am your host, Dylan Dilworth, and I have a special guest with me today who's also going to be co-hosting, Chip.
What's up, everybody?
And today we're going to be talking about news in the gaming industry and in the film and television industry today. So we're going to start off with some news from Sony after this quick break.
Cool.
All right. First up, we have news from Sony and PlayStation. This time of this recording is Tuesday, April 24th. And this past weekend, God of War for the PlayStation 4 has dropped. And right now, I can tell you off the top, if you have a PS4 and you have nothing to play or you want a great game, go ahead and pick God of War up.
Have you been playing over the weekend?
Yeah, I'm about 7 hours in, which is not a lot, but if like compared to the other games, because the original trilogy, they were about 10 to 12 hours long. Mm. So normally, like, I would be towards the end of the game, but with this one, if they said if you want to do a speed run, it's going to take you about 25 hours, but if you're regularly playing, it's going to take you about 30 to 35 hours.
Wow. That's been one of the biggest things I've seen with this jump in consoles is the size of the games and the size of the maps.
Yeah.
Like, because, from PS2 to PS3, it was really, like, the graphics, like, looked so much better. And the graphics look better on the PS4 than they do with the 3. But, yeah, for me, it's been just the size of the maps and the scope of the games are exponentially bigger than they were in the previous generation.
Right. Because back Yeah, because last generation when I had my PS3, I had a 500 gigabyte PlayStation 3, and I never ran out of memory. And this generation, I have been constantly been deleting games for like the past 2 or 3 years because like each game now is like 30 to 50 gigs each.
Yeah, and it's made me go. I mean, they're trying to do this whole digital switchover thing, and I'm still going buying physical discs because I don't have the 50 gig on my hard drive to give up for it. Or I get the disc and it's another 50 gig.
Yeah.
But I remember, yeah, with DLC and everything, they can definitely swell up. So what are your thoughts on God of War so far? You said it's been, the length of it is different. And there's a father-son aspect to it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so right now the game is still like fresh and is being compared to other games, which is the creative director and the lead game designer. They actually came out and said in the little like developer diary that they took inspiration from different games, and then so that started this whole band of, you know, comparing it to, oh, they're trying to be like The Last of Us, they're trying to be like Dark Souls.
And so for those of us who don't know, the God of War series is you're playing as an ancient Ares, Kratos, some sort of deity, God of War.
Yeah. So quick like story for those of y'all who don't know. So Kratos is a Greece Spartan, and in the first game, the Spartans are at war, and Ares comes through, and hold on, quick spoiler alert if you haven't played
a game that came out 15 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. So Ares comes through and offers, you know, to help the Spartans in war, and you know he signs like a contract, like his soul and stuff over, and Ares ends up tricking him into killing his family, his wife and daughter, and that led on to a whole revenge quest. And at the end of the first game, you defeat Ares and you become the new God of War, and then, you know, some more problems come through with the Greek gods, and you go through and...
I remember that in the second game. So I played the original one, the original trilogy on PlayStation 2, and the third one was on PS3.
Yes.
I never beat any of them. The first one I remember, I got to the desert, and I couldn't find my way out of the desert, so I gave up on that one. I think that was God of War. The second one, there was some sort of... I was in a room with water, and there's all these gears, and it was a puzzle, and I could never figure it out, so I gave up on that one. And the third one actually glitched out on me. There was a part where I remember I was running down these, like you come out of this building, and these two, it was like, you know, this old temple or something, and then the game just glitched on me and wouldn't let me go past this point. And I never got around to buying another copy and pushing it. So I have played the original trilogy, but I never beat any of them. No. And then at the time I played them, I get them confused in my head with other third-person linear games like Prince of Persia or the Devil May Cry series, or all, because they were all kind of, for me that was a lot of my high school because I'm terrible at first-person shooters, you know, like Call of Duty or Halo or whatever. So I liked those games a lot. But yeah, they all kind of it's been a while.
Yeah, in terms of you know, my thoughts on like the game, I can definitely relate to like the story from like both standpoints. Again, spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Because, you know, I haven't. Because in the beginning of the game, Atreus' mother, Kratos' wife, passes away, and she leaves. Like her last wish is to have her ashes released at the highest peak of this mountain. So that's the main quest. But along the quest, Kratos is trying to teach his son the skills he needs to survive. And of course, if you played the like original trilogy, I'm pretty sure you know that Kratos has a temper.
Yeah, I mean, it was the ultra violence of the game was the selling point. I mean, it's one of those where you just slay 1,200 enemies in one level, sort of thing. Because I remember the axes came swinging out of it, and you could just annihilate an entire row of enemies.
Right. Yeah, and especially in God of War 3, them boss fights was brutal. Because I replayed the God of War 3 remaster before this one came out, and I was like, these Greek guys got beat. And I'm like, yo, and then I was like, and then I started like to think, it was like, yo, which God got it the worst. Kratos has a temper, and he's trying to, teach his son and have his son control his anger, because at this point in the game, his son doesn't know that he is the son of a Greek god and has all of these, powers, and he doesn't want that anger to control him like, he did. So he's trying to like teach his son.
Yeah, the father-son storyline, that's an interesting perspective. You've seen it a lot with games, especially with kind of some of these exclusives on PS4, because the last one I can think of is Last of Us, which I guess was PS3. But even Uncharted 4, there was a parent element, because if I remember correctly, you're trying to save their daughter, Nathan Drake's daughter, and what's her name, the blonde he gets with.
No, it's been a while since I played Uncharted. I know what you're talking about, though.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's been an interesting thing these last few years in games to see is these these parental storylines kind of coming in. I think part of it is just the aging of the people, those of us that have grown up playing games and those of us that are making games, and just the world around us. But God of War is a PlayStation exclusive.
Yes.
And so Sony just released information about they're opening their own studio, or I thought they had their own studio.
Yeah, they have their own studios, but they just put out like a press release that they're opening up a new studio. So they're trying to add another one.
Okay.
They're trying to add another one to, their mix of first-party developers.
Yeah, because Sony's always kind of had it on lock when it comes to exclusives. I mean, I'm going back to the original, PS1 era, PlayStation 1 era. I remember, Tomb Raider was always the PlayStation exclusive. And then you had Gran Turismo, Forza came along later with Xbox.
Games like Crash Bandicoot.
Yeah, Crash was there, answer to Mario. And I've never had a Nintendo system, so yeah, I grew up playing Crash.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot, Jak and Daxter, like the list goes on and on. But one of the rumors that's going around right now is that on the press release for, saying they're opening up a new studio and they're now hiring, it was a picture of, characters from Uncharted on the, on the picture of the press release. So the rumor going around is that this new studio is going to be developing either the next Uncharted game or an Uncharted spinoff, while Naughty Dog can focus on The Last of Us 2 or another new IP.
Does Last of Us really need a sequel? It seemed to be a pretty self-contained. I mean, I guess the opening was the ending was a bit open-ended. I guess you could develop a sequel out of that. I loved that game. So it looks as though this new studio that Sony's created is going to kind of take the pressure off of Naughty Dog, another one of their in-house developers, so they can focus on a new IP. Because they've had Uncharted, the first Uncharted game was a launch title with the PS3, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So that's 06?
Yeah,
07, something like that?
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, if they've been, and they've had 4 games out of it in 13, 14 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, I could see them wanting to shift the, because Microsoft did something similar with Halo.
Mm-hmm.
Because Bungie gave them the rights to Halo.
Yeah.
Or they bought the right, or Microsoft bought the rights from Bungie, and so now it's developed in-house.
Yeah.
As well as a couple, like Forza and a couple others they do in-house for Xbox as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, because in-house studios, that's, because how do I want to put it? Because, like, not necessarily, like, I don't want to say control, but, like, you're the head of that studio, and you don't have to go through a middleman, so to say, to develop these games. And then you also, with a first party studio, you have the power to be like, I want this game exclusively on my platform.
Yeah, and it seems to be rather, I mean, you look at Naughty Dog, they've always had a good relationship with Sony, so it seems to be working with them in their favor. And, Sony is kind of now getting a little bit more well-known with the PlayStation, or so it appears, with their standalone properties. Because, all your Madden, your Call of Duties, your any of your big releases are probably going to be multi-platform.
Yeah.
But the beauty for me, I believe, the beauty of these studios that are just releasing for a single system, it gives them more time to develop the story, develop the narrative, and then they get to play with the mechanics of the system itself a little bit more, as opposed to just doing enough that they can spread it out over PC, Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, iPhone, whatever else it may be.
Yeah, because that's what I was about to say, because like they can focus on one platform and one platform only. They don't have to worry about porting it over to different consoles and stuff, because I know a lot of developers, I know From Software, they're remastering the original Dark Souls, and because this is a multi-platform, so they got to develop it for one thing and then port it over and make it to those mechanics and stuff. And the Nintendo Switch, they're having problems porting it over, so they actually had to delay that version. So that like extra trouble is like gone, and they can just focus on one platform.
Because Microsoft has, and exclusives, Microsoft has this new is Sea of Thieves is an exclusive to the Xbox?
Yeah, it's exclusive.
And it seems to be doing really well. They claim they have more than 2 million players, but they haven't sold 2 million copies of the game.
No. So basically, in the press release that Rare Studios and Microsoft put out, before I get into all that, I want to salute to the Microsoft's PR team, Aaron Greenberg. You and your team over there, y'all doing an amazing job. Because, even though I'm about to, like, dissect it and pick out what's wrong with it, y'all, at the end of the day, y'all are just doing y'all jobs as, press release and marketing. But they had put out a statement saying that, stating, and I quote, "The worldwide excitement for Sea of Thieves has made it the fastest-selling first-party new IP of this generation. Having witnessed more than 1 million players on launch day, our community continues to grow and now has more than 2 million players." So from that statement, it sounds like, Sea of Thieves is winning, like fastest selling. You got 2 million players, sold 2 million copies. But it hasn't really sold 2 million copies yet, because even though they didn't give a specific number, when you read the statement, you're just going to associate that 2 million players with sales. But what they're doing is Microsoft has this service called Xbox Game Pass. And it's basically kind of like a Netflix for video games. You sign up, you pay $10 a month, and then you get access to the Xbox library. Yeah, you get access to the Xbox library and a couple of other games. You pay $10 a month, and you can download them and, play them as much as you want. So they're adding Xbox Game Pass players into the player count.
So they're inflating the numbers a little. They might have 2 million players through the streaming service, but not necessarily through
sales. There's still so there's 2 million players playing the game. It's just like hasn't sold 2 million. So as far as actual like game sales go, we still don't have a number. But at the end of the day, which leads into the next section of Microsoft news, they want people to play their game and keep them there. Mm-hmm. So, all right, earlier we was talking about God of War. There's a journalist over at IGN by the name of Ryan McCaffrey. He's a journalist over there at IGN, and he covers mainly Xbox news, and he's also one of the hosts of their Xbox podcast. And he took to Twitter and he tweeted, "Xbox fans are dying," and I put emphasis on dying because in the tweet he made dying all caps. "Xbox fans are dying to celebrate a masterpiece level exclusive like God of War. Thing is, though, it took Sony 10 years to get to this point where their first party is firing on all cylinders. This work started in the PS3 era. Xbox can/might get there, but it's going to take a long time."
Because Halo and Forza and Fable are such terrible games and IPs? not counting Fable 3. Okay. I mean, I get what he's saying because PlayStation's always kind of put a bigger foot forward when it comes to IPs, but I don't think Xbox is lacking. Hell, the last Tomb Raider game was an Xbox exclusive for the first year.
Yeah.
And Tomb Raider started out as a PlayStation exclusive in 95.
And another like gray area with this tweet, I'm not sure if he's talking about the quality of the game or the review scores. Because God of War right now, well, when reviews first came out, it was averaging about a 94 on Metacritic, and now it's up to about a 95, 96.
I mean, how accurate are game scores, though? Because I see everything. I rarely see a game rated lower than like an 80. So really, we're only using a 20-point scale.
Yeah.
There might be a 65 for like some Game Boy Advance port from a Japanese game that didn't quite exactly make it through translation and all intact, but very rarely have I, through Game Informer or Metacritic or IGN, rarely do I ever see anything below 85. That's just personally. So,
and this is it's okay. No, but the interesting thing about this, because he didn't tag Phil Spencer or nothing at all. The tweet just went viral, and Phil Spencer actually went on Twitter.
Phil Spencer is
the head of Xbox.
Okay.
Well, the Xbox division at Microsoft.
Okay.
Yeah. So Phil Spencer, he got on Twitter and he replied to the tweet, and he said, "Our hardware took time. Our service, platform, and backwards compatibility took time and is continuing to grow. Our first party will take time as well. A high quality and diverse first party game, yes, with single player, built the right way, is our goal and what our customers deserve. We can have similar results to what we've seen in hardware in our platform."
I mean, I don't really consider this whole console wars thing. I have brand loyalty in a lot of things I do. I like Fords and Subarus. I wear a lot of Vans. I like Honda motorcycles. I've always had a PlayStation. That's just how I am. And so, what Sony has in stellar, IPs exclusive to their consoles is great, but Xbox has things it does better than Sony. Xbox has always had better controllers, in my opinion. Their hardware's, always been either nipping at the heels of Sony or pushing it forward. And they do have good intellectual property. So I don't want to sound like we're taking a dump on Xbox or Microsoft or anything right now.
Yeah.
It's just this stuff takes time and it's entertainment. And now that the video game industry is consistently making more money than the film industry, this stuff takes time.
So, but this kind of like brings me back to like the focus of the two companies, because in an interview that Phil Spencer did, he had stated earlier that, big story narrative driven games didn't have the same impact as it did back then, and that, the focus right now is on games as a service. And for those games as a service, it's basically a game that comes out and then they update it with content. So like, Call of Duty has, their map packs that they release out. Destiny has their expansions. Grand Theft Auto has the new content that gets added every so often. So that's what they wanted to focus on. But like the numbers are still there, because if you look at single player narrative games that have like no multiplayer, like with Sony, like The Last of Us, that sold 8 million copies first year. Horizon Zero Dawn sold about like 7.6 million first year. And if you go over to Nintendo, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, it sold like about 6.7 million in less than a year. So
that's wild. I hadn't heard that. I knew it was doing well. I had no idea it was doing that well. Yeah, let's keep in mind too, these are businesses. They are trying to make a dollar. So some of this is definitely the medium, the technology pushing the business practices. They see there's a push towards multiplayer and DLC, and it's a way they can keep making money off these games. Because with these single player games, they're great and they have great narrative structure, and they tend to be some of the best reviewed games. I mean, Last of Us is considered one of the top 3 games of all time.
Right.
I'd never had a video game make me cry before. I'll admit that. And so I think with everything, we're always just trying to find the balance. Yeah. So I think there's a balance between, they're discovering the balance, the same thing you've seen in Hollywood with the truly artistic quality films that we all love and enjoy and have that are timeless. Last of Us, the graphics might get better over time, but that game, that narrative, that father-daughter, even though Ellie wasn't his daughter, but that father-daughter relationship you have, that transcends time. But then they want to make money. And so they're pumping out their Call of Duties and things like that, and those multiplayers, because they can throw out, or Fortnite or whatever. Fortnite was probably fairly cheap for Epic to put together, because it's not, in terms of like quality, it's not the shiniest game or the best, smoothest looking game, but it works. And they're making money off of selling skins and guns, and I don't think it's the loot boxing, but it's a grind. It's a grind of a game, I'm assuming. With this. So I think we've just started to see, because the video game industry is so relatively new. I think we've just it's mirroring Hollywood a little bit in the sense that we're starting to see the artistic, essentially like art house films of games. Your what was it, the Shallows, or what was the Guillermo del Toro movie that just won Best Picture?
Oh, you said, which movie?
Guillermo del Toro.
The Shape of Water.
Shape of Water. So you can have, Shape of Water quality stuff, and at the same time make Pacific Rim, because it's going to make money and it's a lot of fun, and you get to see giant robots fight giant monsters, which if they made a Pacific Rim video game, or Gundam or whatever the hell, it's gonna make money for these guys.
Yeah, and last thing about Microsoft and their games as a service, because Sony, their exclusives are even though some of them have multiplayer, they're more focused on the single player experience, while over at Xbox their focus is more towards the games as a service, because if you look at games as a service, you got games like Destiny that sold 13 million, Call of Duty 15 million, and stuff like that. And then Activision Blizzard, off of the content that they push out for these games as a service, they made $4 billion last year off of, the microtransactions and the content that they added. And I'm pretty sure this was back when Halo 5 first came out for the Xbox One. But, Halo, when they dropped their, microtransactions and their expansions and map packs, they were making, money off of that. So, but as far as the demand for single player experiences over at Xbox, I'm pretty sure they are coming, because, Phil Spencer has stated several times that he's working on bringing some more games, single player experiences to Xbox. It's going to take time, but it's just that, you got to know your audience and what your platform's primary consumer is, basically. All right, so that is it for the main
gaming news this week.
Yeah, the main gaming news. We're going to take a quick break. All right, so we're going to move on to some controversies involving Netflix. This specific piece of news involving Christopher Nolan, Christopher Nolan, is pretty old, but if you follow the film industry, or if you're a big fan of Christopher Nolan, then you know that Christopher Nolan is kind of set in his ways.
Yeah, he's fairly old school in the way he likes to make his films.
Yeah,
because he's still Dunkirk was shot on 70 mil.
Yep,
it was shot on old film stock. There's only a handful of those cameras left in the world, and only a couple places in the world that'll even develop the film. But it looked gorgeous. And 70 millimeter film has the equivalent of 9K resolution.
Yep.
So we still can't do anything digitally as beautiful as that. But there's a reason why it's an older technology that isn't the norm anymore.
Right. So, Christopher Nolan, he's a big advocate for the old school way of filming. He's a big advocate for the IMAX film and like shooting stuff on 70 millimeter. And then like if a director like wants to use it, but they don't have like the resources, like Christopher Nolan, he literally lends out lenses and cameras to people that want to shoot on 70 millimeter and IMAX and stuff like that. And Christopher Nolan, the theaters, because the controversy with him and Netflix was that he said that he would never work with Netflix and that films aren't meant to be, streamed online or at home. And, he's a big advocate because he said plenty of times that if you want the best experience, you have to go to the theater. And, if you want to watch Dunkirk, you got to be immersed in it and go see it in the theater. I made this for a theater.
And the theater experience is different than being at home. I was talking to my girlfriend about this the other day. Because I still like going to the theater, and it is Blade Runner, for example. I am so happy I got to see Blade Runner 2049 in theaters because I got to see it 100 feet projected in the air, and the sound and everything. But it was also the audience participation, and then just the immersive quality of going and seeing a 3-hour film in the theater. I'm not my dog isn't bothering me to go outside. My phone isn't going off. So I understand what Christopher Nolan's saying too, but at the same time, he does just kind of sound like an angry old man shaking his fist at the air.
Yeah. So, one of the statements he gave out, like in the interview, he said, "I grew up in the '80s, the birth of home video. Your worst nightmare in the '90s as a filmmaker was that the studio would turn around and go, you know what? We're going to put this on video instead of theaters."
Straight to video release. Those are, it's like a death sentence.
Yeah, so from like this statement, I'm assuming he's equating Netflix originals with that straight to video concept.
And I understand that line of reasoning. Whoops. I understand that line of reasoning. But it's not the 90s anymore. 90s was almost 30 years ago. Which is weird to say, but so cool. Yeah, you grew up in a different time. Things change.
Yeah, and he ended up writing an apology letter to Netflix, stating that he should have been, because because like Christopher Nolan, of course, when you're speaking about something you're passionate about, of course, you're going to be like, have that emotion and like that rawness behind it. And, he wrote an apology letter to Netflix basically saying that, he should have been more polite in that he was wrong and he was wrong for like expressing it the way he did. So like he acknowledged that. And then he also said that, he's sorry that he didn't speak on how revolutionary Netflix was and, give them their props and pay respect and stuff like that.
Well, I give credit where credit's due. Good on him for, acknowledging his mistakes So that's big of him. I can appreciate that. But Nolan is the only one that has issues with, I say issues with Netflix, but I mean, Netflix has been such a huge force in the movie industry in the last decade. Spielberg, going back to Ready Player One, I'm sure he's got ideas about Netflix. I mean, he believes that Netflix maybe shouldn't be considered for the Oscars. Guess because it's not using the traditional medium.
So basically, background on what Netflix is. I don't know if they're starting to do it now, but their strategy is so that way their original films can be considered for an Academy Award nomination. They will release it in theaters for like about a week, so that way they can have that theatrical run and so they can get nominated. But on the press run for Ready Player One, Steven Spielberg, he said that in his opinion that they shouldn't be considered for Oscar nominations. They should be getting Emmys instead, because he said he sees them as TV movies.
Because that's the medium in which we are consuming it.
Yeah.
I understand that perspective, much like what Nolan had to say about Netflix. Whether right or wrong, I don't know. I mean, they are films, never traditional sense of the word. And I can tell you, over the course of my life, I have watched way more movies at home or at someone else's home than I have in theaters.
Right.
So I don't know, because it brings all sorts of issue too. Because I know with cans when they went to France has different rules in regarding streaming. It's like 3 years it has to be between
the theatrical release and being streamed.
Yeah, so 3 years. I remember when I was a kid, it was, but movies stayed in theaters a lot longer. I mean, it's about 6 weeks anymore. When I was a kid, movies in theaters for about a year. They were in the main theaters, and they got pushed down to the dollar theater and the drive-in, and then, and then they would make their way to HBO or Showtime or whatever about a year or so, that that next summer, and then you'd be able to like buy it at Christmas, sort of thing, in terms of like Blockbusters or whatever. So yeah, the timetable has shrunk just insanely. I mean, the fact that I'm getting ads to stream Justice League now, and that came out between November. Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Yeah.
I mean, come on. I'm still not going to watch it because it looks like a steaming. No, I don't want to say it looks bad because I know there's a lot of energy and effort and goodwill that went into it. DC's just swinging for the fences.
Yeah, no, and plus, like you said, like I also think like the medium has changed because like back then, because like I remember when I was little, waiting for the Harry Potter movies to come out, it would be like you have to wait so long. But I guess it's that process of, if it was shot on film, taking the film, then converting it, then making it digitized, or putting it on a VHS tape and stuff like that. But now everything is digital because one file and it's already everywhere.
Oh yeah, no, I remember doing that. When the Lord of the Rings movies came out, and waiting every Christmas, they would come out in the. It was that timetable I just gave you. Came out in the summer, and then I'd wait till that next Christmas, and I could get like the deluxe Lord of the Rings box set, which I still have all the DVDs of. I never bought the Blu-rays because it's the same story. I don't know what I'm gonna gain with the Blu-rays.
Just and I'm better resolution and frame rate and stuff like
that. Everything comes back to Lord of the Rings when you're talking about film. They're the ones that changed tent poles and blockbusters and things like that. They're the one in terms of literature. Oh man, we could sit here and dissect Tolkien and Lord of the Rings all day. Yeah. And that's a whole nother show in itself. But I mean, it's been almost 20 years since those movies came out. The 2001 on the first one.
Yeah,
they started filming them in '99. Yeah,
99. Yeah, because I remember 2000, like they came out like 2001 and 2003.
Yeah,
because I remember going to the theater and my parents went to go see Lord of the Rings while my older sister took me and my other sister to go see Harry Potter.
That's right. They came out at the same time, and I think it's one of the. I never really got into Harry Potter. I never read the books. I've seen 2 or 3 of the movies, maybe. I don't know. I remember seeing Gary Oldman kick through a door. So I was always a Lord of the Rings fan. So it's really, and now it's coming back. Amazon is dumping $500 million into the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. So, but that's without like that $500 million is without what they spent to obtain the rights to do the TV show. So basically, original content is, it's basically what gives your subscribers that incentive to come or to stay.
Right. And that's what Netflix is switching to, much more original content. All the streamers are. HBO already has that on lock. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. That's how they generate new and keep business, is through original content.
Yeah. So, because, Netflix always looking out for original content. HBO, Game of Thrones is winding down, so they're looking for that next big thing.
Yeah, they got Westworld, but it's not
as I'm not gonna say the impact because I don't follow HBO like that.
It's as good. I don't think it's different. I mean, it's just a completely different show. It's hard to compare outside of this kind of business principle we're looking at. But Westworld's good, and I don't know if it's gonna have if it's gonna be it's not. Nothing's going to be. Game of Thrones is equivalent to Lord of the Rings in the sense. What Lord of the Rings did for film, Game of Thrones is done for TV.
Okay. But so HBO, they're looking for that next big thing, and what's called New Line Cinema, HarperCollins, and the Tolkien Estate. They're open. they, I'm not sure how news got out. I don't know if they put out press release or something like that, but they, word got out that they're interested in doing a Lord of the Rings TV series.
Yeah, so how that happened was 3 or 4 years ago, Tolkien's son passed away, and he had been the head of the Tolkien estate.
Yeah.
And, he was J.R. Tolkien's son, so he knew better than anybody how his dad wanted this stuff all displayed. And after they made a really bad animated movie in the 70s on Lord of the Rings, and after that kind of just was terrible, J.R. was like, I don't really want this to be anything but the books. Then they made the movies. They were great. Yes, they left out a storyline or two, and it wasn't everything because you're two different mediums. You can't bring everything. Then I think it was 2013, 2014, somewhere in there, J.R. Tolkien's son passed away, and so the estate moved to somebody else or a law firm or something of that nature. I forget what happened. So then all of a sudden, that's when the floodgates opened.
Okay.
Because I remember the bidding war between Netflix, Amazon, and HBO for, I think it was last summer, maybe a little bit before, for the rights to this.
Yeah. And especially especially if the Tolkien estate isn't ran by, his son who wants it to be great. If it's going to like some law firm or a business, they're looking for top dollar.
Right.
So, of course, goes to the highest bidder. Amazon outbidded Netflix and HBO, and they obtained the rights to do the TV show for a quarter of $250 million, so $250 million just to secure the rights to do it. And, and the deal, it was a 5-season commitment. And they said that they plan on spending $500 million on the first 2 seasons, and then the last 3 seasons another $500 million. So they said they're expecting to spend upwards of $1 billion on this TV show.
I mean, it's Amazon. They know what they're doing. They have to be expecting to at least generate $1 billion worth of profit off of this. Not of revenue. It has to be profit to justify it, I would think. I mean, that's just obscene. But it's Amazon. They can do that.
Yeah,
they've got the
money.
deepest pockets. I mean, that's how they ended up with the Top Gear guys when they left a couple years ago. I don't know if you ever followed that show.
Yeah, I did a little bit.
But yeah, there's a scandal with the BBC, and somebody's temper got out of control, and so they ended up the 3 hosts of Top Gear, which was at the time the most watched show, non-scripted show on Earth, split ways, and again, big bidding war between HBO, Netflix. I don't know if HBO was now, but big bidding war between Netflix and Hulu and Amazon and whoever else, and Amazon came out on top.
Right.
And you would think with all that money, they would make their user interface better. It's still, on the PS4, it's just terrible. And I can't use it on the Chromecast because Amazon and Google don't like each other, so I can't stream anything to my TV off Amazon's app. I have to go through my PlayStation or whatever. Life is tough.
Or you got to crack down and get that Fire Stick.
Or I got to buy the Fire Stick, but then I can't stream anything off Chrome.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because being Android, I always had Androids, and the Chromecast is great because anything I pull up on my browser, on my computer, or on my phone, and most every other app except for Amazon stuff, I can just stream right to it. Hulu, Netflix, HBO, VRC, any of those, Filmstruck, any of those other media apps, YouTube. Well, it's owned by Google, but Vimeo. Which one's money?
Venmo is money.
So Vimeo is, the same thing, streams all that to the TV.
So, because, of course, like with every business, they have to be like looking at profit. So, and they said that like when the seasons start to roll out, you're going to be able to stream it through, is it Amazon Video or Amazon Prime Video?
Amazon Prime Video, I think is the full name of it.
Yeah, so you're going to be able to stream it through Amazon Prime Video. So, because what came into my mind is like, yes, the films generated all of this money, but that was a theatrical release.
And then the DVDs, and then they released the Blu-rays, and then we'll get a 4K update here in a couple years, and I'm not going to spend $80 on 4K, but because every generation it goes up $10.
So you got that, so you got that factor, but this, just sitting on Amazon Prime Video, I'm pretty sure they'll eventually release like a Blu-ray set that you can go to Target and buy, or just outright buy it on Amazon to like own it. But as far as like streaming goes, that $100 a year or the $10 a month, like how many subscribers are they looking to bring in and to maintain to get that billion?
I mean, at $100
back.
a year for $1 billion, what is that? 10 million? 100 million?
Yeah, like I think 100 million.
100 million. So they're looking at getting 100. That must be worldwide. They must be looking. I think they are starting to go worldwide. I think they got into Australia and New Zealand and Southeast Asia this last year. Don't quote me on that.
All right, so one of my favorite TV shows, The Walking Dead, it has had its lowest ratings since season 1, and they are on their 8th season currently. So I stopped watching the show because my favorite, all my favorite characters are gone.
Yeah, Carl's not with us anymore, right?
Yeah, Carl's not with us no more. Tyrese is not. Is it Tyrese or Tyrone?
Tyrone.
Yeah, Tyrone. It's not with us no more, and I can't remember his name in the TV show, but Tyler James Williams from Everybody Hates Chris. Because all right, the first one, because fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And then because like everybody thought I was playing, because like back in high school, it's like, yo, if they kill Carl, like I'm done. And then like they kill off two of my favorite characters. I'm like, oh, Carl's going. And I was like, nah, because like I was on Twitter, I was tweeting like, no, blah blah, but like. I said like, man, AMC is probably looking at my tweets. It was like, man, you're gonna be back next week like you've been doing for the past years. But I'm gonna
about it, and I'm gonna come right back next week and about it again and watch it and about it again.
Yeah, and I was like, you know what, I'm done this time. I was like, because they don't want to listen. I was like, the only way for them to listen is through their pockets.
I quit watching the second season, to be honest. I've cut a little bit. I read the comics all the way up through Abraham's Compound, so I think that was like issue 80-ish, somewhere in there. Yeah, I quit watching the second season. It was when they were on the farm. It was just people standing in a field talking, which is fine, but it wasn't. It just didn't keep me. It didn't keep me enthralled, and I knew, having read the comics, I knew, okay, now they're gonna move to the jail, and then now they're or to the prison, and then they're gonna get out of the prison because of the crazy rednecks, and then they're gonna go meet Abraham, and then that's gonna turn cultish and weird, and then you get to All Out War, and I quit reading right when All Out War started. Yeah. That storyline in the comics, and I know they've added characters and changed things, But yeah, and some of it might be fatigue too. Are these 13 episode seasons, 18 episode seasons?
It's hard for me to think off the top of my head, because it starts about about October, and then it'll go to December, and then they'll have their mid-season break, and then they'll come back in like February or March for like another like month or so. So, but it's like about 13 or I would say like a minimum, like 13 episodes minimum. But
so we're getting close to 100 episodes, 100 hours worth of content now.
Yeah. So for the for the people that's listening, season 1 had 6 million viewers, and and their highest peak in terms of viewers was season 5, where they had 16 million viewers, and now season 8 it has dropped down to 7.9, which is the lowest since season 1.
Yeah, because season 2 looks like it was 9 mil, so we're in between season 1 and 2. Yeah. Man, I just feel bad for Chris Hardwick having to be super stoked about that every week. I think they gave him his own show. I think he's just talking now.
Yeah, he talks about like when The Walking Dead is over, he talks about Fear the Walking Dead, and then when Breaking Bad was on, he had a talk show about Breaking Bad. So he's like their talk show host for their original series. But is it time for The Walking Dead to call it quits? Because it's about almost gonna be a decade and 2 more seasons.
Yeah. Who knows? It's hard to tell. And it might maybe we're looking at this series the wrong way. Instead of like something that's going to have a beginning and a middle and end, maybe we need to look at it as like a soap opera, where in terms of that it's just always this continual ever-changing, evolving thing. And so it's going to become something that you don't recognize just over time. That's what happens. Or maybe the show's just gone off the rails and it's not as good as it used to be.
No, I noticed like at the point where a whole bunch of people had said like they stopped watching, it's became like more filler episodes. So I don't know. I think if they want to bring back up or retain it, just cut the amount of episodes or cut the amount of filler and just do that. All right, so that is it for this episode of 2 Cent Tuesday. Want to give a special shout out to Chip for making time to come here and discuss.
I should probably say something.
Yeah, I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah, no, man, I'm happy to be here. Get to nerd out for an hour.
Yep. All right, so that has been it for 2 Cent Tuesday, man. Make sure you tell your friends. Yeah, tell your friends about 2 Cent Tuesday. Tune in every
Tuesday. Click that like and subscribe button.
Yeah.
So. Like and subscribe.
Click
that like button.
Click the like button. Click if you're watching this on YouTube. Click the like button. You listen on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. Go ahead, leave a review, and if you're listening on the radio, make sure you tune in 2 Cent Tuesday, same time next week. Peace.
Dylan Dilworth.
Yeah, I am Dylan Dilworth, and you can follow me on Twitter at Dylan, spelled DYLAN _CBE.
Deuces.
Thank you all for tuning into this episode of 2 Cent Tuesday. If you made it this far, you are the real MVP, and thank you for your support. Even if you skip certain sections or only listen to 5 seconds, I would still like to thank you. The background music during the intro and outro was produced by Homage Beats. The title of the beat is called Millions and can be found on his YouTube page, Homage Beats. Once again, thank you all for tuning in. You can follow me on Twitter to stay up to date at Dylan _CBE, and Dylan is spelled DYLAN _CBE. And I am out. Peace.